We're here in South Florida, and hurricanes are a part of the environment. So today we're going to go over all the things that you need to know to keep your family safe, to keep your pets safe, and so that you can have the best experience through some of the potentially worst experiences that you can have. It's absolutely beautiful, but this is part of the thing that comes with the territory living in Florida, and this video is going to go over everything that you need to know to prepare for a hurricane if and when it comes. If you're new here, this channel is dedicated to all things South Florida and anything that has to do with South Florida real estate specifically. Now don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's get on to the video. All right, so let me give you a quick checklist to get started. We're going to go over in this video all the things you need to go over, and we're going to go to Home Depot. We're going to look at this house, but let's dig into what those specific things are. We're going to go over the windows, what kind of coverings on the windows, impact glass, that kind of stuff. We're going to go over the roof. What kind of roofs are there out there that aid in the protection of your house? The garage door, that kind of thing. Food, water, generator, power, pets. We're going to go over all these things so that you know exactly what you need to do when this hurricane comes on us. Now, the first thing you need to be thinking about in a house when a hurricane comes, the windows. Those are the things that coconuts can come flying, branches can come flying, and what is protecting the house, those windows, from those flying objects. Now, right here, this is actually impact glass. So if you have impact glass, which in all the new homes, actually the building requirements for Florida, actually you have to have impact glass. So anything that's built newer is usually going to have that impact glass. If it doesn't have it, you want to look in the garage. Usually people store their shutters in the garage, okay? Now those aluminum shutters that you can go up and actually screw into the windows, those are highly important. If you want to go one step up from that, you can actually get the accordion shutters, which you can close. They stay on the edges of the window and you can close them and then lock it. Worst case scenario, actually you can use plywood. You can use plywood and drill it in. It can damage the house a little bit, but not as bad as a hurricane can damage the house. You can always ask the builder, or you can ask the agent to make sure that the hurricane windows actually are impact glass. If they're not, then you want to make sure that you have shutters so that you can get a credit on your insurance. You can go without shutters. You can go without this stuff, absolutely. But your hurricane insurance is actually going to be much higher. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about are gutters and downspouts. Now, this house right here actually doesn't have gutters on it. It's not something you absolutely have to have. It helps to move the water, right? But that's the point. If those gutters and downspouts have a lot of debris in them and the water can't move, it actually can get up in and under and into the roof and cause that mold issue. So if you have gutters and downspouts, make sure you get up and clean out all the debris out of those gutters and downspouts. That's going to make a big difference in your preparedness. All right, so now we're going to go over something that is something that a lot of people don't think about, even that live here in Florida. This is a deferred maintenance situation, and you might not think about this, but it's something you're going to think about after it happens. Remember that wind, right? So what you want to do is actually trim all your trees and shrubs, because that's where that debris gets picked up by the wind and impacts that window. So one of the things you really want to do all year round, I know you might not want to go out and do landscaping. I'm not a big landscaping fan myself. Anything that you think won't withstand a 30 or 40 mile an hour wind is definitely not going to withstand a 100 mile an hour wind. So those kids' toys, swing sets, any of that kind of stuff, you want to get that stuff and move it inside the house or off your property. But at the end of the day, this is something that can really help to protect your house. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is one of the most important pieces for your family. You want to prepare a disaster kit for your family. Now, preparing a disaster kit includes a lot of essential items. You want water. All right, water, obviously, we're made of water. You need to drink at least a gallon of water a day. Not everybody does, but look, you need to store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for at least 3 days. Water is essential for staying hydrated, cooking, and sanitation, especially if your electricity goes down. You might get dehydrated. You might end up sweating more. So you've got to have enough water. Next, you got to have non-perishable food. Have at least 3 days of non-perishable food. I'd like to see you have a week. But at the end of the day, at least 3 days of non-perishable food. That is going to be things such as canned food, energy bars, dried fruit, nuts. Choose foods that are easy to prepare and don't require a lot of refrigeration, okay? The next thing you're gonna need, you're gonna wanna have a first aid kit. You've gotta have a first aid kit. Let's prepare for the worst and not have anything happen. That first aid kit is gonna have such things as bandages, gauze, antiseptic, and any prescription medications that you or your family might need. Remember that. Things might go down. You might have Walgreens go down. You gotta have those prescriptions on hand. Next, You gotta have flashlights and extra batteries. Make sure you have flashlights that have large batteries, extended batteries, what have you. But you wanna have as many batteries as possible. They always stick around. That's something that you can buy. You can never have enough batteries. Now, you don't wanna have candles, as those can pose a fire risk, okay? So have flashlights, lots of them, lots of batteries, and avoid candles or any kind of lanterns or that kind of stuff that might cause a fire. Next, you wanna have personal hygiene items such as soap, toothpaste, toilet paper. You want to have cash. I know this sounds a little bit weird, but you want to have some cash on hand, as ATMs and credit card machines may not be available during the power outage. So you want to have that cash on hand if we have something really bad happen. You never know, and hey, it's always nice to have some cash around. Next, important documents. Keep copies of important documents such as your insurance policies, identification cards, and bank account information in a waterproof container. Also, what you can do is you could scan that stuff and download it to your Google Drive or something like that. Next, clothing. Pack a change of clothes and comfortable clothes. You're going to have shorts in case it gets super hot in that, but you also want to have some boots. If you're walking around after, a lot of times the debris coming off homes will have nails and glass and that kind of thing. Things fly everywhere. So have a good pair of boots that you can use in case you will need to go out after the hurricane and fix up your house or that kind of thing. Next, blankets and sleeping bags. So, we are in Florida. It is during that season where it's generally hot, but you never know. Have those blankets and sleeping bags available. Have a small toolkit necessary for supplies such as duct tape, rope, multi-purpose knife, Gorilla Glue. Get some blue tarps. Those can't hurt either. One last bonus item. This is a trick of the trade for locals. You want to have Fix-A-Flat in the back of your car because the gas stations may be down. And again, back to those nails and glass and debris. You get a lot of flat tires out there. This is something that people don't think about. All right, so this is one of the things that people don't think about in the storms. They don't do it preventatively. So if you're watching this video now, before a hurricane has come, I would suggest that you might want to think about getting a backup generator. Now, why a backup generator? Well, first of all, power for the house. Obviously, that's what a generator does. We talked about those perishable foods. Those are going to be fine, even if the AC goes down. So have that backup generator, and that should be able to power your air conditioning and your stove and your refrigerator. Depending on the wattage of that generator, you might also be able to, if it has enough power, you can power your washer, your dryer, and that kind of thing. Why is this important as well? Well, comfort. Back to that AC thing. It is hot here in summer. It is hot. So if the power goes down, you are going to be very hot and uncomfortable for a really long time. Well, I don't know how long. It depends on how big the storm is. A little tidbit here as well. Don't put your generator inside the garage and close the door because it actually emits carbon dioxide and that can seep into the house, and that could be something that could hurt you and your family. So a lot of these generators are outside next to the house. Those generators have a buried tank that they're on propane, and that tank can actually power that generator for up to a week, if not more, depending on the size of the tank. So you don't necessarily need to go all out with that generator that's hooked into the house. They call it an all-house generator. It actually hooks right into the electrical panel and it'll power the whole house. But if nothing less, you can get one of those small Makita generators, and those will power at least your refrigerator and maybe your air conditioning to keep you comfortable and keep your food from perishing. All right, now this video is all about our families and keeping our families safe. And look at our cuddly little pets. They are part of our families. So one of the things that we want to do is think, hey, if I needed those medications, are all your pets vaccinated? Do they have all their vaccinations? Are those all up to date? Do the pets have any medications? Also food. Pets need food, so you want to make sure that you have extra food for the pets as well. Here's another thing you want to think about. There is potential for evacuation. And when you get into an evacuation situation, you want to have a plan for maybe that hotel that you're going to go to. Is it pet friendly? Is the shelter that you might go to, is that pet friendly? So plan the evacuation route with your pets in mind as well. And you also want to know your pet's hiding spots. So one of the things, these storms, they scare me. I've been through a couple of storms. I've been through the eye. It's quite a rattling thing. And your pets are going to get really scared. So know all their little hiding spots. Where do they like to go when they kind of get a little bit scared or worked up? Furthermore, you want them to be inside. I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer, but you want your pets to be inside. Now, let's say, for instance, you might have a pet that might go away for a day, one of those outdoor cats or something like that. Make sure that the pet's microchip is updated. in case you lose that pet in a storm. It's a real tragedy. I've seen it before. After these big storms, the shelters get full of these pets, and if they don't have a microchip, they can't find the owner. Now, here's another little tip for you with our little furry friends. We want to keep them calm during the storm. So you might know something that keeps your pet calm. It might be a chewy toy, so we might want to give more of the chewy toys and so forth. You might want to give them some CBD, I don't know. So we want to keep your pets calm, and soft music, those kind of things, and maybe the CBD might help too. Now, another thing that you want to be thinking about is your insurance. You want to go over your insurance policy. Is that insurance policy a hurricane policy? Find out what that kind of coverage is. Now, this is something I want you to really clue in on. There's wind and there's flood. Those are two different policies. So if you're in a potential flood zone, you want to check that policy and see if you have flood insurance. Now, a lot of these storms, unfortunately, some really bad destruction happened. And if the insurance company believes that it was flood rather than wind, and it might have been the wind blew the top of the house off, right? And that rain came in. But if the insurance company believes that it was floodwaters that did it, you might not get coverage. I know that sounds really scary. So make sure that you go over your policy. Now, flood insurance is actually subsidized by FEMA, and it's actually a very, very low premium for what it covers. So make sure that you go over your hurricane insurance policy and you make sure that your wind is up to date. And if you are in a potential flood area, make sure you get that flood insurance. Now, in case of absolute worst case scenario, we're talking about evacuation. You've got to have an evacuation plan. What is your route? Where are you going to go? What does that look like? Actually drive that route. Take a look. Where am I going to go? How long is it going to take me to get there? And calculate all of that. So worst case scenario, you might have to evacuate. So really be clear on what your evacuation route is and a plan on how you're going to execute on that. All right, so let's talk about hurricane classification and categories, if you will. Now, they're based on the wind speed, the storm surge, and the potential for damage. The categories range from 1 to 5. Now, here's a brief overview of the different hurricane categories. Now, Category 1. These are winds ranging from 74 to 95 miles an hour. These storms can cause some damage, including downed trees and power outages. All right, so Category 2. Now, these winds are ranging from 96 to 110 miles an hour. Now, these storms can cause significant damage to buildings with the potential for wood and wood damage and that so forth. As that wind gets higher and those loose objects that weren't secured down, those can start flying around. All right, now Category 3, this is where it really starts to ramp up here. Now, these winds are ranging from 111 miles an hour to 129 miles an hour. Now, these storms can cause extensive damage to buildings with the potential for significant roof and wall damage. Storm surges can cause flooding in coastal areas as well. Now, Category 4, this is where it really ramps up, guys. These winds are up to 130 to 156 miles an hour. These storms can cause catastrophic damage to buildings, including roof failure, extensive wall damage, and these storm surges from a Category 4 can be extremely severe. The Category 5, this is get out of Dodge. Basically, Category 5 is a giant tornado. It's over 157 miles per hour. Now, these storms are catastrophic. I've used that word before, but a Category 5, there is no joke at all with this kind of storm. These can literally blow walls down. This is something you want to be extremely concerned about if it is a Category 5. Now, it's important to note that even a Category 1 hurricane can be dangerous and cause significant damage. It's important that you take all the necessary precautions and you want to follow the advice of local authorities during a hurricane, regardless of its category. We can get lightning. Lightning can hit a house, that can cause a fire, that can cause electrical problems. So lightning can happen, and you want to be aware that lightning, wind, rain, and here is another thing, hail. So you can get pelted by those coconuts and that, but now you can be pelted also by hail. Here's another thing, if you live close to the beach, storm surge. You can get these incredible storm surges, especially if the tide is up. If you get one of these storms hits and you have a high tide where the tide is already very, very high up, then you can get even bigger surge. And what that surge happens is basically the wind pushes all of that water in the direction of the storm. So you can get these giant flood surges. Now, in conclusion, I know I went over a lot of stuff here, guys, but ultimately this is something that we deal with down here. On average, 14 storms brew out in the Atlantic, and not all of them get named into storms, but on average, about 7 hurricanes actually are produced out of those low pressure systems, which go into a tropical depression, which go into a tropical storm, which become a hurricane. So on average, we actually have 7 hurricanes that hit the United States in a calendar year. Now, Ian and Nicole were 2 storms that hit Florida last year in 2022, and Hurricane Ian was actually the 5th largest storm to hit the United States in the history of the United States. It absolutely devastated Fort Myers. If you've seen these photos, it's incredible what this storm did. I hope you like this content. If you like the channel, please subscribe below or like or comment. And if you have any questions about hurricanes or that kind of thing, about the houses that are out there, please reach out to one of our team. They're all very versed in what it is that you need to do and the different things that the homes need and have. And you want to have that great agent to look out for you. So please call us, text us, email us, and we'll be happy to help you. Until next time, thank you so much. Be safe. This is Alex Haigh with Haigh today, and we'll see you on the next one.